Hi everybody, I'm Paul Tran from Indicia Training. Welcome to our video session on job search skills. This session is one of three. The other two are CV skills and interview skills. I'd certainly recommend that this is the first one to look at because today we're going to take a look at planning and thinking about your job search campaign. So we're going to take a look at your strengths, your skills, your achievements, what kind of work you're looking to do, and having a think about getting your job search onto the right footing. Now, there's a workbook with this session. If you don't have that with you, by all means, use some pen and paper. I'm going to be asking you at various points today to pause the recording and do some of the exercises that are part of this session. So feel free to do that. And obviously, you can pause the recording whenever you want to. Right, let's take a look at three objectives that we have for today. The first one is that we're going to understand and use the main routes to job opportunities. Let's move away from doing what we've always done. Let's have a think about making our job search as wide as possible. The second objective, we're going to show how we find and use key information in your job search. So that's information about you, about your background, but it's also about some of the people that you know who can help you and some of the people that you haven't met yet who can also help you. And our third objective is going to run through the whole of this session. We're going to get you increasing your self-awareness, your confidence, and your motivation. So there are three main objectives for today. The big thing about a job search is it's like a campaign. Let's move away from just applying for jobs here, there, and everywhere randomly, and have a think about what we're good at, what we've done in the past that's really noteworthy. And let's have a think about what we actually want to do and start to go looking for that. Wow, where do we search? There are four main job search routes. We're going to be looking at all four of them, and we're going to encourage you to give your job search some structure and balance. So I think it's really useful to utilize all four of the main job search routes and do them as equally as possible. Utilize the hidden job market. 80% of jobs are not advertised. So that means we've got to go hunting jobs before anybody knows that they're actually there. Also, we've got to maximize our use of social media, particularly LinkedIn, which is a very good source of work generally. Loads of recruitment agencies now use LinkedIn because it's free. So it's worth getting your LinkedIn set up. So let's take a look at these four main job search routes. The first one is networking and social media. Networking isn't just about going to meetings in city halls or online, bumping into strangers you don't know. We can do this in a very systematic way by having to think about who we want to contact and what our connection is with them. Social media is also important as well. Loads of organizations will use the likes of LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. So it's really useful to get all your social media profiles up and running and make sure as many people as possible know that you're looking and what you're looking for. So networking and social media, it's a lot more prominent than you think. The second main job search route is recruitment agencies. Whatever we think of them or whatever we're told about them, a lot of organizations have good relationships with agencies and they will go to an agency first. So it's really important to have a think about which recruitment agencies can help you and meeting them, getting in touch with them so that you go onto their books and they're another tool in your job search. The third main route is speculative applications. And this is where we have a real good think about who we want to work for and with and why. And we have a think about how we fit in with them. And we just ask. Now, bear in mind that a speculative application is really a route to get a really good meeting with somebody. It's not a job interview. It's making you look so compelling that they want to speak to you and get things moving from there. You've probably guessed the fourth one, online and print advertisements. Now, many years ago when I was a youngster, this was the only place that you'd tend to go, either that or people would tell you stuff was coming. We didn't call it networking in those days. Online and print advertisements are still very, very prevalent, nowhere near as much as they used to be. And in percentage terms, I would argue that this is the smallest percentage of the four. And for all that, there are some organisations who are obliged to advertise vacancies. So it's always worth making sure that we consider as many journals, newspapers as possible, and we take a look online as well. Just bear in mind that online, there's often a lot of duplication. You'll see jobs that look different but are the same. And what I'm going to ask you to do today, everybody, is have a think about making sure you use all four of these job search routes as much as possible, particularly the one or the two that you're most uncomfortable with. Often they're the ones that will help you the most. So they're your four main job search routes. Get to know them all and get to use them all as much as possible. And let's move in to the fact that 80% of these vacancies are filled without being advertised. Bear that in mind when you're looking at those four. So, first thoughts. I'm looking for a job, or I'm looking for another job. Let's not go online. Let's not go in a newspaper. Let's not straight away talk to our friends. Let's have a think about three really important things when we start our job search campaign. The first one is, what skills do I have? These are the abilities that we tend to acquire over time. Some of us are really modest. We don't consider that we have skills as such. We just do stuff. There's something that you do as part of your job regularly. It is a skill. And I'm going to ask you in a moment to consider the skills that you think you have. The second first thought, if you like, are our strengths. These are our characteristics or behavioral traits that, if we're really self-aware, we know we have, or other people tell us that they like working with us, or they've recruited us, or they've promoted us, not just because of our skills, but also because of our strengths, our calmness, our honesty, our reliability. Three examples of real good strengths. And the third first thought are our achievements. These are the tasks and the results that you're proud of. It doesn't have to be winning a big bonus, winning a big award. It could just be a project that you worked on that was completed successfully. And it's really important, if we think about our CV and about any interviews that we have, that we focus on our achievements for every job that we talk about. What was our main achievement? What was the impact that it had on the business that I was working with? So, what are my skills? What are my strengths? And what are my achievements? And these are three things that we really need to consider when we start our job search. So let's take them one by one. What we've got on the slide here are loads of examples of key skills. Have a look at them. Have a think about which ones apply to you. And then take a look in your workbook, or use a bit of paper that's with you right now, and see if you can jot down in 5 minutes as many skills that you use as possible. What's on here is a guide. There could be so many that apply to you and not anybody else. So I'll give you 5 minutes, have a think about it, get a nice list of skills. I'll see you very soon. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you fill the space up with all of those skills. If you're struggling to think of skills, ask people that you work with, or ask people who manage you or have recruited you. They'll tell you. Why did you pick me? Well, this. They'll tell you about some skills that you have. And it's really important when we think about what kind of work we want, what kind of work we're looking for, and what to put on our CV, that we think, what are my key skills? Let's build on this a little bit more. Let's think about our key strengths. And again, what we've got on the screen right now is a list of sample key strengths. How many of them apply to you? How many of them would your friends, your colleagues, your managers say apply to you? 5 minutes. Have a think about what your key strengths are. What would your customers say about you? What would your colleagues say about you? What would your managers say about you? Again, there's some space in your workbook to fill this out, or you can use some pen and paper that you have with you. 5 minutes, have a think of as many key strengths that you think you have, starting now. Welcome back, everybody. How many did you get? I'm pretty sure you thought of quite a few. Again, if you're struggling, ask the people that you work with, ask your customers, ask your clients, ask your colleagues. They'll tell you, why is it good working with me? Why do you keep buying things off me? Why do you look happy when it's me that's dealing with you? And their answers will be your key strengths. And then, of course, we've got the achievements. We mentioned this earlier, the third first thought that we thought of. And whenever anyone's looking at your CV, whenever anyone's interviewing you, the first thing they'll ask is, they'll look down your CV and they'll ask, oh, so what? You worked there, so what? What did you do? And your answer is hopefully a list of achievements. I met deadlines, I reduced costs, I led a successful team. How many of these apply to you? What I'd like you to do is have a quick think about this as well. I know we're giving you a lot of work early on, but we want to make you think about this. In your workbook, there's some space where you can make a list of achievements. You don't have to do them in any particular order right now. Just think of them as they come, job by job. Don't worry about thinking no one's going to be impressed about that. You'll be surprised. And what's important is that your job search and your CV and your interview shows examples of stuff that you've done really, really well. So pause the recording. I'll give you 5 minutes. Have a think of as many achievements as possible. Welcome back, everybody. I'm sure you thought of quite a few. Again, doesn't matter if you think they're trivial. They will look good. And remember, when an employer, when a recruiter reads or hears about your achievements, they will start to visualize you doing those things, working for them. And that's so much better than someone that just tells people where they worked and what their job title was. It brings things alive. So it's really important to think about these three. Now, we can go further with this. If you get really stuck, here's a nice little exercise for you. I'd like you to list your achievements job by job. So we've got two examples in the workbook, but there's one example on the slide here. I was a van driver. What did I do? Well, I delivered goods across the UK. I ensured that orders were correct and delivered on time. What skills and strengths did you use? Well, I planned my schedule, I managed my time, I drove safely and punctually. And the result was that I met deadlines, I built relationships with happy customers who ordered 20% more products. What we're doing now is, rather than just thinking randomly about achievements that we've done, we're starting to bundle them job by job. And the more you think about this, the more you can start to add. This person would probably think a little bit more and think about more things they may have done. Made sure the goods were safe, made sure they weren't damaged, made sure they were there in one piece. Problem solved with on-site issues, etc., etc. Back to your workbooks, there's space there. We've given you this example and one more example. And I'd like you to follow that by just listing each job you've done, what you did, what skills and strengths you used, and what the results were. By the way, a clue, make the result a positive one. And what I'll do is I'm going to give you 5 minutes, pause the recording. In fact, no, I'm going to give you 10 minutes this time, because you might have to think a bit deeper with this and give us a bit more detail. 10 minutes. And then what I'd like you to do is come back and we'll move on. See you in 10 minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Right, you've got a list of skills, a list of strengths, a list of achievements, and now you've got a list of your achievements job by job with a little bit of added detail. Keep coming back to this. And again, be mindful of being over modest. We do more than we actually think, you know. And straight away, what we have now is a lovely list of strengths, skills, and achievements that we can start to think about putting all of this together into our job search. Because this is the stuff that at the start of things helps us think about, what do I want to do? What do I enjoy doing? And why? Where might I fit in? You might be thinking, I'm not sure what I want to do. Maybe this, maybe this, maybe this. Let's just stop all that for one moment and have a think about this. First thing, consider your skills, your strengths, your achievements. Which jobs suit them? Never mind what you think about them, what you think about you. Think about which jobs might suit your skills, strengths, and achievements. You might not even want to do any of them, but get yourself into that train of thought. Make a list of what you like doing and what you want to avoid. Think about all the jobs you've done, including the one that you might be doing right now. What do I like doing? What do I want to avoid? And that's actually quite important. Most of us do the odd thing in our job that we're not that keen on. It's important to know what they are, but it's really important to know what you like doing, because generally we do what we like doing. We're pretty good at it. We enjoy it. We get more out of it. We're better to be around. It's also good to write down what you want from work, whatever it is. A little bit of pressure, quiet life, being left on my own, completing things, making things, dealing with customers, dealing with challenging people, whatever it is. What are the things that you want? Let's forget about job titles. Let's just think about what you actually want from your work. And then think about the restrictions that you have. It could be that you don't want shift work. It could be that you can't work at weekends. It could be that you may have height restrictions that prevent you from doing some kind of work. It could be that you only like a certain type of pressure, or that you only have a certain level of technical knowledge. Again, it's important to jot those down too. And once you've done all that, you can then start to jot down your options. What fits in with my skills, strengths, and achievements? What do I like doing? What do I want to avoid? What do I want from my work? What restrictions on me and my setup at the moment could get in the way? And then jot down your options. And you might want to weigh them up. I like to weigh things up out of 10. 1's low and 10's high. And once you've got your options and you've weighed them up, then it's really useful to research all your options and start choosing. She said to me 25 years ago, I'll be running my own training business. I'd have laughed at you. But I went through all of this. And what I'd like you to have a think about now, you can stop the recording in a moment and actually go through as many of these items on the slide as you can. If you want to do it one at a time, great. But I'd actually suggest that you do all of these. And that's where your job search really starts. That's why we're talking about a campaign. We're not just randomly applying for things. And this is sometimes a lot of hard work. I spent 10 years in recruitment, asking people to do this stuff. Most people won't do it, but in the long run, it really pays off because you end up getting the kind of work that you want. And at the moment, that's really important. So what I suggest you do is pause the recording, give yourself time to do as many of these options as you can. I know what you might do. You might just carry on the recording anyway. That's fine. But wherever you go with this, I'd really like you to do these 6 items on the slide before you start really doing anything else in earnest, because it makes a huge difference. So however long you're going to pause the recording for, I'll see you very soon. Welcome back, everybody. If you looked at all 6 of those options on the slide, I'll take my hat off to you. If you looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, that's really good too. You've got to do this at your own pace. So what's next? Oh God, how do I choose stuff? Have a think about this. Really good example. Job, customer service rep. What did I like doing best about this job? Well, I solved problems. I spoke with customers. I like the pressure. I like learning new skills. Oh, and I like the bonuses as well. What did you like least? Well, difficult customers, too much pressure, long hours, shift work, weekend work. Have a think about each job you've done. If you're in your mid-50s like me, go back 10, 15 years if you've had quite a few jobs, and start to jot down what you like best about the job and what you like least. And this starts to bring everything together. Again, I'll give you some time to do this. Let's say 15 minutes. Pause the recording. I'll see you later. Welcome back, everybody. What I'm hoping now is that you've got a really good idea of what you like best in each of your jobs and what you like least. Most of us have got things that we like least. So what we're going to do now is take a look at networking. And by the way, we've been doing networking for years, even before we even heard of the word. When I was a kid growing up in Liverpool, if you were from one part of the community, you worked at the gas board. If you were from another part of the community, you worked for the electricity board. It was just kind of how it worked. We didn't call it networking in those days. It was just who you knew. But what we can do with networking is be really proactive. Networking is a good definition for networking. It's about using all your known contacts to gain information that can help you to approach an employer. Now, sometimes this could be really quick. A friend of yours could say, hey, Paul, I know someone who's looking. Here's their name and number. Give them a ring. Or it could be that you decide that you're interested in one particular company and you find out who the best person to speak to is. Or you find them on social media. Whatever you do, there's some best practice around networking, which we're going to take a quick look at. And there's 6 main points here. The first one is start with who you know. Tell everybody that you know who you trust, what you're looking for, and when you're looking. You'd be surprised how many people speak to other people and who are asked whether they know anyone who could do a particular job. The next point is reconnect with old contacts. I remember when I set up my LinkedIn account years ago, I was amazed in the first 3 months that I just kept bumping into people on LinkedIn that I worked with 5, 10, 20 years ago. And it's a great way of catching up. And I know with the pandemic, a lot of us have been getting in touch with old friends just to see how they are. And from that, we're rekindling old friendships. And you don't know what your old contacts are up to these days. They may be able to help you. So it's a nice thing to do anyway, but it's a great thing to do for your job search. The next point is just to make a list of who you want to work with or where you'd like to work. So it could be a particular location, it could be a market sector, or it could be a specific company or even a specific individual. Just make a list. What you like, who you'd like to work for. You might also think about who you don't want to work for as a market sector. I know personally, I've got one or two market sectors that I don't really like, so I'm not interested in them. And I know some geographical locations that I wouldn't want to work in. I'm sure you could be the same too. The next point is we can search online for target companies or target individuals. So we could just do a straight internet search, or we could have a look on LinkedIn. More on LinkedIn later. The next point is we need to take time to connect with fresh faces. This is quite a time-consuming process, more than you might think. Setting up a LinkedIn account, finding out who to contact, actually just bumping into people who may be able to help us, connecting with agencies, maybe even connecting with networking groups if that's what you want to do. It takes time, and it's really useful at least once or twice a week to spend a little bit of time on this, just to get into the habits of doing it every week. And it's sometimes not a natural thing for some of us. Stick at it. It really pays dividends. Remember, 80% of jobs aren't advertised, and this is a good way of finding them. And when you network, what people often forget is networking is about how you can help other people too. I'm sure we've all been to some of these networking meetings where people walk up to you, shake your hand, chuck their business card at you, talk about how marvelous they are, and then walk away. I don't know about you, what I tend to like is when I meet people and they're interested in what I do and I'm interested in what they do, and we get on quite well, and we might swap business cards, we might not. Most people I know tend to remember people who are interested in them and who may be able to help. It's one of the things I like doing on LinkedIn is if I see someone posting, can anybody help me with whatever it is? If I can help, I'll just reply. Hey, look, I've tried this and it's worked really, really well. Give it a go. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, thanks very much. What else do you do? And we get talking. So it isn't just about me grabbing hold of someone and saying, hey, man, I'm looking for a job. It's about just being interested and seeing if we can help. Remember that there's loads of other people looking for work too, looking for another job maybe. And you may be able to help them with your knowledge, with your experience. So this is a very much a rolling thing that you keep doing. Always start with who you know and then start to fan things out. But always have in the back of your mind, how can I help others? It's a nice thing to do anyway. Now, if we're looking at networking, there's three main points around best practice. The first one is always prepare what you're going to say when you make contacts. Whether you're doing it online, whether you're doing it in person, whether you're phoning someone, have a think about what your message is going to be and what language you're going to use. Even now, sometimes when I ring someone up, I write down on a bit of scrap paper what I'm going to say, what my main points are, what I want to get out of the call or the meeting. It just helps to focus a little bit. The second point is whenever you contact somebody, contact them after each contact. Make a note to get back in touch after a suitable time. So if I meet somebody on Monday, or if I have a chat with them online, I'll actually say, hey, it's great speaking to you. Let's have a chat again in a month or 2 months or 3 months or a week. That's a judgment call that we make. Don't leave it too long. And the third point around networking best practice is it's really important to make follow-up contacts and get names from them, or get names for more potential contacts from them. Who else do you know that works in this industry? Oh, cheers. Oh, yeah, you're looking for that, aren't you? I know someone who does that. Let me get in touch with them and I'll put you together. Again, going back to LinkedIn, sometimes people say to me, you really need to connect with so-and-so. I'll introduce you. And it's lovely, really, really helpful. So keep things moving, keep things on a proactive basis. Follow up your contacts and get the names of more potential contacts too. So that takes us on to LinkedIn. Now, if you're already on LinkedIn, press forward for a couple of minutes. But if you're not, I really suggest you get on it quite quickly. It's one of the best ways of job hunting. There's 8 real good points around LinkedIn, but the first thing I would say is get an account and set it up. And they'll always give you a LinkedIn address, but you can customize it. So you can put it on your CV. And that means that whenever anyone sees your CV, they type that link and it goes straight to your LinkedIn profile. And put a professional looking photo on your profile, even if it's just a mugshot like the one to the corner of the slides right now with me. You're relatively smart. Not the ones at the party when you fell into a taxi. Make it a professional one. What normally happens on LinkedIn is that you've got your name, your photo, and there's one little line about what you do. And sometimes people put their job title. I'm a customer service representative. I'm a learning consultant. But it's quite nice to have a one-line snappy description of what you do or what you bring to people. So the one I always use is that I help people think and do things differently. And lots of people actually say, I like that, and that's why I looked at your profile. It's not a job title, it's about what you bring, and that's really important. So it's worth having to think about that. And I've seen some real interesting ones from all market sectors. And then you write a profile, and again, this profile is a description of what makes you attractive to employers. I am customer service representative. I serve customers in the fields of engineering parts and inquiries. No. What is it you actually do? How do you actually help them? And sometimes it's worth going through a normal day and thinking, what do I do? Yeah, I do that, I do that, I do that, I do that. And then put your profile in there. You can put your CV on LinkedIn if you want to. But usually the profile's compelling enough, brief enough. It gives people a flavor of who you are as well as what you do. And then it's important to think, right, which companies and which individuals do I want to connect with? Because the beauty of LinkedIn is you can actually look up companies, you find out who works there, you can find out who manages the area that you manage. And you also find out about them as well. So it's a lovely one-stop shop for finding out whether companies that sound interesting really are. And of course, what you can do is just link. You can actually say, oh, Paul, yeah, I want to link up with you. I'm very interested in training and development. I'm in that field too. I'd really like to connect with you. Most people will just accept a connection. And then you find out what they're getting up to. And if you post, they find out what you're getting up to as well. And you start to get to know each other. And sometimes it's worth doing that a little bit before you say, hey, Paul, do you know anyone who's looking for any good trainers at the moment? Because I'm really looking for a job. Get to know them first. I mean, you'll probably get people trying to sell you stuff too. You know how to deal with that. You may also get agencies contacting you too, and that's really useful. You can start building up a library of agencies that you work with. So think about your connection and connect with them, but always give a reason. I mentioned this earlier with networking. See if you can help others asking for guidance. If I scroll down my LinkedIn feed, there'll always be somebody saying, hey, I really need some help with this. If I can help, I'll always reply to the post. And usually people say, thank you very much. You may end up connected. You don't know who they know. And remember, if you've helped someone, they'll be more likely to help you back. And the last main post, it's useful to write your own posts if that's what you want to do. The main thing is that you're memorable for the right reasons. Like with all social media, make sure that you leave people the impression that you want to leave them with. You don't need to be a Pulitzer Prize winning author. Just write down what you think about stuff. Make it relevant. More broadly speaking, with social media, there are some important best practice points. We've got 6 of them on this slide here. The first one is Decide how you want people to think of you. That's your reputation. And it's really important, whatever you do on social media, you do it with that reputation in mind. I spent a bit of time working in graduate recruitment, and it was interesting how you'd see a CV with this business-like, serious person that's passionate about what they do and believes in quality. And you go on Facebook and there's a video of them falling out of a taxi. Now, I like a laugh, but maybe I might not like a laugh. Maybe that's not the thing I'd like to see about somebody. So whatever you do on social media, everybody can see it. So be mindful of that. Show your skills and expertise. And always nice to constantly reference what you do and how you help people. The next point is that always let people know what you're looking for. So whatever it is, whether you use Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, let people know that you're looking for something. It doesn't mean that you have to say, I'm out of work. If you are, you could just say, well, I'm actually looking for a role in X. And again, once you start to connect with people more, they may be able to help you. And again, keep saying this, it's really important. Help others as much as you seek help. When we help people, they are more likely to help us back. And it's a nice thing to do anyway. And the last point is one that we'll keep saying again and again. Whatever you publish, employers will see it. So take care. It's nice to show your interests. If you look on my Twitter feed, a lot of it's about Everton Football Club and cooking and rehoming greyhounds. Oh, that's fine. But I put stuff about my work too. And I always link it to my work. So that's social media. Do have a right good think about this. It's really, really important because we all use social media. Generally speaking, if you push me, I'd say LinkedIn is the best place for job hunting, but you do also see stuff on Facebook as well. The odd thing on LinkedIn. These days, a lot of recruitment agencies scour LinkedIn for candidates. I know they'll do the same with you too. So whatever you do, just be mindful that everybody sees what you publish. So you want to be remembered for the right reasons. So that's social media. Let's move on to the lovely area of speculative approaches. Some people will say, oh, Paul, that's a little bit forward, it's a little bit pushy. It doesn't have to be. There's three main things about speculative approaches. First one is that you've got to think about sending an email or a letter with your CV. The second thing is it's really important that you follow up with a phone call, I think, rather than an email, if that's possible. And then phone or email again after a suitable time. Remember, sometimes people test you out. Sometimes people say, well, we're not looking now, Paul, but keep in touch. I freelance. There's people that I ring up every month. What's happening? How's it going? Have you got any projects where you might need a spare pair of hands? This is something that keeps going and going and going all the time. Now, there's 5 things to think about around speculative approaches. As we go through this, there is the overriding fact. This is a campaign. It's not a one-off. Who do I want to get in touch with and why? Which individuals do I want to get in touch with and why? And it may be that after a while, you see something else about another industry or another company and you go there. So it's always evolving. The second point is you've got to do your research. Great thing about the internet is if we're on it, we can research companies, how well they're doing, whether they've laid people off, whether they're expanding, what their major projects are, what's in the pipeline, what wonderful things have they been up to. The internet will tell you all of this stuff. The third point is it's really important to look for opportunities in the media, even new buildings, new business parks that open up. And also think about your contacts. Who do they know that may be looking? Who do they know that specializes in something that you've got some skills and strengths and achievements in? The fourth point about speculative approaches is it's better to approach a potential manager rather than just go to HR. If you go to the manager, there's more chance that he or she will say, I've got a really good candidate here. I'm going to go to HR and say, listen, when we're looking, we really need to speak to this person. And the fifth point is that you can do this in conjunction with your social media too. So you can do speculative approaches based on a LinkedIn search or based on what people tell you on Facebook. The great thing about this is that speculative approaches can save employers money. If they say a really good candidate, they haven't got to pay for an advert. They haven't got to pay somebody to spend a day looking at the response. And they don't have to pay an agency either. So you could be doing them a favor. And remember that sometimes if an employer sees a really good candidate, they might craft a job to suit that candidate if they think you'll be a really good fit. So while speculative approaches might not be the first thing you'd think of, it's a really good chance for you to think about the kind of work you want and the kind of business that you want to work with or organization that you want to work with, and just apply. The worst thing that's going to happen is they'll say, well, actually, Paul, we're not looking right now, but we'll keep you on file. If they are, get in touch again 2-3 months later. You'll be surprised how quickly things change. And I'm pretty sure in the next year or so, things will change a lot and often. So, speculative approaches, do them. Do them as a campaign. Here are my contact details. Here are the reasons why I'm writing. I'm interested in working with a company in this sector. I've noticed that you're really successful. You seem to be expanding. That's why I'm writing to you today. Think about your hooks. I'd like to highlight my track record in customer service, in constructing units very quickly, in persuading people of my ideas. All those hooks are really good in the letter that you write, and also your action. I'll contact you in the next week to see if you've had a look at my details and you think I'm interested. Let them know that you're going to get in touch again. Sometimes what happens is they actually ring you first or email you first. And again, the worst thing that can happen here is that they're not looking right now. But if you make a good impression, they may well get in touch with you later. And I have come across over the years so many companies that keep a record of speculative applications. And whenever they're looking, the first thing they do is look at that list. So give them your details, tell them why you're writing, tell them about your hooks, and tell them when you're going to get in touch with them next or what you're going to do. So that's speculative campaigning. Do it. Now we're going to have a quick think about recruitment agencies. Everybody's got a view on agencies. I worked in this business for 10 years. I know it from both sides. There's a few things to think about initially. Always have a look and see which agencies advertise the roles that you're interested in. They're the ones that are relevant. Don't walk into an agency and say, have you got any jobs? I'll do anything. They don't like that. You wouldn't go to a supermarket and ask them if they've got food. They've all got jobs. Have a think about what you're interested in before you approach an agency. Get agency recommendations from your network. Who does this type of work? Who's good? How did they help you? Is there anyone that you spoke to at that agency? Because then you can say, well, I know you helped Paul get a job recently and he said you were really good. It's a great way of buttering them up, but it's also really good because they associate you with the person they placed. Always know what you want from them before you contact them. What types of work are you looking for? What types of salary or hourly or daily rate are you looking for? Where geographically are you going to work? Use more than one and be proactive with them. You might find that certain organizations will stick with one agency. It's always worth contacting more than one. They don't always get the same jobs, although that does happen sometimes. It's really good to treat them as an employer. they open the door to employers. So if you look good, if you sound good, if you're enthusiastic, if you're very clear when you're communicating with them, straight away, it's more easy for them to sell them to their clients. And the next point is be patient. You know, with agencies, if they think they can place you, they will work very, very, very hard for you. Believe me. So whenever I speak to an agency, one of the things I always ask them is, well, do you think you'll be able to place me? And their answer tells you an awful lot. But bear in mind that they might not have the right job for you every day, every week. So be patient with them. And we've mentioned this already. Many agencies use LinkedIn. Keep your profile up to date. Keep your CV up to date with recent achievements so that it's current. The thing about agencies is that you never know when they'll get the right job for you. So keep in touch with them. Be very clear about how you want to work with them, what kind of work you want to do. And keep contacting them. They see loads of people. They see loads of CVs. And again, be memorable for all the right reasons. The other thing with agencies, of course, is that you may end up temping through one. It gives you a little insight into how perhaps different types of role, different types of industries operate. And often people use temping as a really good source to test things out and end up temping for a while, or maybe doing something interim. So have a think about whether you'd be interested in temping or perhaps doing a contract role for 6 months or a year, as well as something permanent. So that's agencies. Let's have a think about online or print advertisements. I'd like you to spend 5 minutes having a think about where you could find online or print advertisements. Stop the recording, jot down as many as you can think of in the next 5 minutes. I'll see you then. Welcome back, everybody. Let's see if you thought of any of these. There's local or national media. Now, again, bear in mind that some organisations have to advertise positions. There's the internet. There's professional journals. If you have a trade or a profession, often what happens is there's a governing body for your profession. They will have their own journal or magazine, which will have vacancies in there. There's social media. A lot of organisations will go on social media first because it's cheaper. And they may get contacts of contacts, people that they know and trust. It's also TV or radio. A lot of organisations use radio in particular, the odd TV thing too. There's job centres, they still do get vacancies. Again, people will go to a job centre because they see it as a little bit cheaper. It's a really good source. Then, of course, you've got recruitment agencies who often advertise. And again, depending on where you live, you may get an organisation that will use a recruitment agency based in London or Glasgow or Manchester or Dublin or wherever it might be, even if the job is local to you. Bear that in mind as well. Bear that in mind that they might not be clued up on the geography where you live either, so you may need to remind them of that too. You might get stuff in shop windows, and it may be surprising what that is. And you sometimes see it in notice boards, in supermarkets, in gyms, wherever it might be. You'd be surprised where that comes up, and you'd be surprised how the criteria will fit you. Now, there's a few best practice tips when it comes to online or print advertisements. The first one is, if you meet some of the criteria, apply. I can guarantee you that not everybody who applies has all of the criteria. So if you have some of the criteria, apply anyway. And remember that requirements can change between when they place an advert and now. So apply if you've got some of the criteria. Get behind the words of the advert to get a feel for the job and the organisation. And of course, what you can do is research them online too. But often what you find is that the words of the advert tell you a lot about them and it may give you an idea about whether you'd feel comfortable working there. And remember that adverts are not always well thought through by employers. Sometimes what happens is they just copy and paste from the last one and change a couple of things. Sometimes when they start seeing applicants, things change a little bit too. Sometimes they're just not really sure what they're looking for. And always, 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 if you've got a CV, cover letter, profile on your CV, refer to the advertised requirements in your CV, your cover letter, and your profile. When we look at our CV skills session, we'll always talk about the idea that you customize your CV to suit a particular job or a particular organization. It's the same when you're looking at adverts too. Sounds obvious, but check before you send anything. Check that it makes sense. If you check for spelling, go from the end backwards to the front, and that's a good way of checking the spelling. And get other people to look at it too. Oh, and make sure you help others as well. They'll help in return. And again, an obvious one that people don't always do is follow it up. If it says apply by the end of the month, give them a week after that deadline and say, yeah, I've chased them up either by phone or by email. I've applied for an advert for customer service representative. The closing date was the 31st of January. It's now the 7th of February. I thought I'd just contact you to see whether you've done the shortlisting or not and how successful I've been. Always follow up. Always, always, always. So that's online and print tips. Always worth having a look at what's in print and what's online. And of course, remember that whatever they're advertising now, they could be looking for other stuff too, or they may have other things in the pipeline. And sometimes you might find that you'll apply for something, you're not right for that one, but they'll actually tell you, we're looking for this. This could be up your street, Paul. So keep applying. So let's wrap things up. We've been looking at our job search. We've been looking at making it a campaign. So use that hidden job market. 80% of jobs aren't advertised. We've got to hunt them down somewhere. Speculative approaches are really useful. They are just about asking to discuss possibilities. They may craft a job to suit you. They may have half a job that you could be great at, that they could make a full-time job. The third point is that whenever you do emails or letters, stick to the point. Here's where you can find me. Here's my skills. This is why I'm writing. Here are my hooks, why I'm really interested. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll get in touch with you in a week's time. The next point is if you have a good CV, and we'll talk about that in another session, it doubles your chances of an interview. So take a look at our CV skills video, get your CV really good too. Use your network and expand it. It's an amazing source of information and sometimes vacancies. The next point is when you're using the phone, it's spontaneous. Be prepared. If you pick the phone up and talk to someone, have a think about what you're going to say and what your main points are before you make the call. Jot them down. And if someone says, I'd like to speak to you at 10 o'clock on Monday, give yourself half an hour before that call to prepare for it. Think about what your skills are, your strengths, your achievements, and match them to the job or to the type of organization that you're applying for. That's really, really important. So you're not just randomly looking for work. The next point is that in everything you say, do, or publish, give reasons for them to interview you, or at the very least, be interested in speaking with you. And you're going to get knockbacks with this. Keep learning from what you get wrong and keep going. People often say to me that getting a job is actually harder than doing the job once you've got it. So We're going to make mistakes in our job search. We'll miss stuff off our CV. We'll maybe get the odd thing wrong in an interview. As long as we keep learning and we keep going, we'll get the job we want. Even if we get a job that's for a few months, always have it in mind that your job search is an ongoing process. So what I'm really curious about is what your takeaways are from today. Some space in your workbook about what you're going to do differently as a result of having a look at this course. Whatever it is you're going to take away, I really hope you take the time to think about your skills, your strengths, your achievements, what you like doing, what you're really looking for, and which companies you're interested in working with. And get that social media set up, particularly LinkedIn. I hope I see you on our other 2 sessions, CV skills and interview skills. But best of luck with your job search and enjoy finding out a little bit more about yourself, finding what you want to do and going and getting it. Thanks for your time today, everybody. Hope to see you on another one of our videos. See you soon.